Welcome to my talk. It will be about Webpack. First of all, I'm Eugene Kovalov. I work as a front-end developer here at TED, and we are going to talk about Webpack tonight. So, how many of you knows what is Webpack? 1, 2, yeah, sort of, not that many. Okay. So Webpack is a flexible module bundler, and it's core now. It's a standard in JavaScript wall now for automating the build process and everything when it comes to working with your resources inside of the JavaScript project. It's definitely not a task runner as anybody would think about it. Because we already have, in JavaScript Vault, we already have Grunt, Gulp, Broccoli, some other tools that help us to actually automate things like having a processing of source files into one bundle and then basically injecting that bundle into the project. So there is something more about this. But I don't want you to mix things and think about Webpack as just a sort of automation tool, so it helps to process the source files and then make a bundle out of it and use it on production. So I recommend you to do that one with Grunt, Gulp, and other tools. So think about it, new way of handling your source code. So what is Webpack again? Webpack is just it's just a tool that helps you to process templates, process some static files like images, CSS, less, and some even CoffeeScript files. Everything comes with a bunch of tools and a bunch of loaders that help you to actually transform those files. So there are three main parts of Webpack that I want you to pay attention to. First of all, it's loaders. Second is modules, and third is plugins. So features and goals for Webpack. Plugins, loaders, optimizations, performance tweaking, support for existing module systems in the JavaScript world, for example, CommonJS or AMD, and giving you a way of thinking about your code in more moduled way. So modules is a core part for Webpack. So every static asset, every chunk of your code inside of JavaScript project should be considered as a module. Webpack allows you to import modules, load them, using different types of syntax. For example, you can use require. You can use require, like ECMAScript 5 standard require something. You can also use ECMAScript 6, import something from something. You can also use any kind of file, any kind of resource that you have a available loader for. So in this example, you can use require something CSS inside of your JavaScript code, or less, for example, or some other pre-processing tool. So next part is loaders. Loaders, it's just a concept that exists inside of Webpack world. It is core for your transformation inside of the Webpack. So you take, for example, some specific domain-specific language like less, for example, and you have a less loader for it. So it just transforms the source less file into the CSS. Or you take, I don't know, ECMAScript 6 file. You process it into ECMAScript 5 using Babel or Traceur or some other. So it's basically a plugin that helps you to transform the files. There is a bunch of different features for loaders. We're not going to spend time on that. Yeah, so there's a lot of info already. So we need to dig into the code. How about that? Yeah, here I have a simple project. We are going to briefly talk about the context of this project and then see what is the output for it. So in the app folder, first of all, let's take a look at the Webpack config file. Here we have just a standard Webpack minimum configuration for Webpack. We have a context that is basically the context of the whole application. We have an entry, so this is the path to your entry JavaScript file, so the main sort of class or main file. You also have output where Webpack will produce the output bundle.js. And you also have different types of extension that it will care about. So in this case, it's JavaScript and Jade, the template system for Node.js. You also have loaders configuration. So basically, we have Babel to transform ECMAScript 6 into ECMAScript 5. We also have style and CSS loaders. We have URL loader for processing the images. We also have Jade loader for processing the Jade templates, and we also have less for less files. That's how we have it defined as an NPM configuration. So all are here. Yeah, the most interesting part is this entry.js file. I use ECMAScript 6 style, so we have imports. We import ECMAScript module that looks like this, just a simple string, basically. We also have a style that we import from less. So less looks like this. Just yeah, some syntax. And we have the main Webpack tester. Webpack tester class, basically, it's just a container for the test function where we perform some actions on the page. So, for example, we try to get the source for the Jade template and then compile it with some content object and then inject it into the page. And then we also have a special feature for just to show you how image loader works. So depending on the configuration of the image loader that we have here, we will load all the images that are less of 10,000 bytes in size as a database64 string. Otherwise, we will actually inject the full URL into that image source tag. So if we go to continue with the entry.js, we also have just a simple button called lazy load that we will inspect the actual lazy load of the JavaScript file that is JavaScript code that is inside of vendor.js. So just we see that it loads on demand, sort of. Yeah, and the ECMAScript 5 module looks like this, very simple. Jade template looks like this. And we have, yeah, images. Yeah, images. So let's run this beast. So we start.
Blame everything on me.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, something happened to the configuration. All right. So yeah, we basically have that page loaded. So we basically take the Jade template and process it with our code. So interesting thing that all of our modules, it doesn't really matter if it's ECMAScript 5 or 6 work because of the Babel transformation. We also have this image that this one is small image, so it's actually a database64 string loaded inside. So depending on the size of the image, our image loader automatically recognizes that type of the resource to load. So this one is big, so it actually comes with as an URL. And we also have lazy load stuff. So if we go here in the network tab, We refresh that just to make sure. So we don't have the actual code that is, remember that vendor.js file. So we don't have that thing loaded as on the page load. So when we click on that, we actually, if you take a look, we actually have that JS file loaded and executed on demand. Yeah, so everything is possible here because of Webpack and how it actually injects its infrastructure inside of the code. So if you take a look at the bundle, you see a lot of stuff that is auto-generated, but mainly it's just that infrastructure code to load those external files and also distinguish between chunks of the code that you have. So you can have configuration depending on each module on the page. So you can have a separate file for that module, exactly as we would think about React application or Angular controllers. So that is it for now. We are coming back to the presentation. I think there is something that I still want to show you. This is all about really cool feature called Live Reload. So we have it here. And again, it's a part of the Webpack tool bundle that comes with Webpack. The feature is in Webpack dev server, but it could be used anywhere in any type of infrastructure code that you have. All you have to do is just to use a middleware project, Webpack middleware that you can inject into your existing application. So this one is called Live Reload. So we basically run our dev server with some parameters, for instance, hot. And it does allow you to edit your code, like to automatically update the code on the page. So for instance, you now see that we have vendor.js. So for example, if you change something in here, like you click here, so this thing apparently executed, but if you type something like, wow, Webpack rules, right? It does refresh the page, and you get this running automatically without you thinking about refreshing the page. Actually, it is quite used in the modern world of React applications, where we have components on the page, and that's how you basically refresh your components without reloading the whole page. It does only load the stuff that is actually updated. Because if you take a look at the console here, so we preserve the log, and then we just update something here, save. You see that it's logging the update, and it does use WebSockets in order to notify the client that something has changed. Please reload this chunk. Yeah. So things that are not covered in this presentation. These are plugins. Plugins are additional things to improve your transformations or the purposeful code of your application. So as just an example, it can one plugin can combine multiple chunks of your Webpack configuration. So for specific purpose. It does. Our presentation does not cover CLI as a command line interface for Webpack. I showed you some stuff, but there is a lot more about this. And we also not cover grunt and gulp integrations. Might be interesting for you if you have already existing grunt and gulp in your project. Yeah. that's it, I guess.
I have a question.
Yeah.
There is a problem with this JavaScript world. Like if you have a jQuery, for example, and you want to know which objects support which methods, and there is a project called TypeScript, and there is one more project called definitely typed. When you for all these JavaScript libraries written in JavaScript, you can have like typings, like interfaces, which allows you just to get auto completion in your IDE. And with this configuration, I saw like a lot of properties like query, presets, something. I don't know what it is, and I want to get auto completion. Is it possible with Webpack to have these typings? Did anyone write these definitions for Webpack?
Yeah, I think I need to repeat the question. So the question was about the typings similar as type definitions inside of TypeScript. You said there is a library, right? There is a library in TypeScript. I doubt that this thing exists in Webpack because everything is community-based and it's very, you don't know what to expect in the recent months. So in this case, I don't think there is such a thing exists because we use a bunch of packages, npm packages here. For example, Babel, right? You were talking probably about this one, presets. So this part is a part of a Babel, and it's a part of the configuration of Babel, not related to Webpack.
Okay.
So
What
yeah.
about Webpack itself? They don't provide this information.
No, I don't think so. You can probably, the easiest thing would be for you to read the source code for Webpack in order to understand things, what's happening. Yeah? Another question?
I've got two questions for you.
Yeah?
One of them, how come it allows you to essentially embed an image as base64? My understanding is generally you want to have it as a separate object so that for browser caching and such. What's the purpose of making it base64?
One of the reasons could be to use it in a mobile-based applications, web applications, where you have to put a lot of effort in order to make a request and get the response, especially on a mobile device where there is a lot of limitations in regards to battery life and also the connection. So in this case, imagine that you have a lot of how you say, the small images on buttons or everywhere that you can use that for. So in this case, yeah, I think it's still it's good to have because you have more freedom to choose where you want to go with the URL that takes a lot of time to get to request and then get the response and also process it. Namely, put the link inside of the SRC attribute in this sense.
The second thing was you're showing live reload there, but when you did the example, it was with another file which was dynamically loaded when you press the button. Does hot reload work if you actually change something on the one page?
Yeah, exactly. It's not a hot module replacement. It's just live reload, so it's a part of it. So it does update things. There is a communication between the client and the server that actually is designed for that type of communication, sort of notification and stuff. But in this sense, no, I haven't found a way how to actually make that thing not to refresh the page and still get the code.
Well, the refresh is okay. I was just making sure that it would also apply to like that base index of HTML. Because like when you click the button, like you showed earlier, that it like loads a new file anyway.
Because
Which is cool, but say does live reload also affect like the root page, something that isn't dynamically loaded when you press a button? Does live reload work for that too?
do you mean like if it still reloads the page when you have only a chunk of a code that needs to be updated?
Yeah, kind of if all the content on the page is affected, not just dynamically loaded pieces of code.
Everything is according to the IST that is IST tree that is being generated according to your code. So if we go here and see entry.js file, we have that for that thing for Webpack in order to lazy load this, we have this require ensure. That means that now we have a reference to this file, right? And then if we update that file, it basically detects all the other parts of the code where this thing is sort of referenced. And then it updates only the parts that are referenced.
I think the question was, if you change main HTML file,
Or the Jade file, for instance.
yeah, if you change Jade file, will it leave reload?
Or even the
Let's
content here,
let's
content one.
let's have a look. Let's have a look. So now we have it running, right? So if we go here and change date, something like, okay?
Yeah.
It does still reload. You have a test, right?
Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, that
Yeah.
answers my question.
Cool. I have an extra thing to show you, actually. I've been wondering, because I worked with Webpack for quite a while, and it always comes the question about how do you actually optimize the thing? Because from the first look, it looks like its infrastructure does take a lot of space, like files in file size. So we have that, there is a tool called Webpack Bundle Size Analyzer. And in Webpack, you actually have a flag saying that, oh, please output your sort of bundle or build information in JSON format so we can later process it. So if you run it like this, you actually have sort of statistics on what's happening inside of the generated bundle. So we have some loaders like style loader, Jade, CSS loader, and the actual self. So this thing actually takes, for our project, small project, it takes about 50% of the code, like 15K in size. And the rest is just the code for those loaders. And if, for example, it's only self here, but if this thing would require or reference some other NPM packages, it will be listed here. Okay? Cool? More questions? Yeah?
How can you handle CDN dependencies? Is it configuration or?
Yeah, basically, what I'll repeat the question. The question was about how do we handle CDN? So how do we actually distribute the production code over different instances? How it's done in our project, we basically have different configurations. So this would, the Webpack config would be named to development or production. And then we have our basic build processes around, and then we just basically upload the files to multiple front servers. That's how we do it.
Do you have any war stories?
There is still a problem of caching, because it does come, the bundle itself, the file name does come with the static name. So I think we've fixed the problem related to browsers caching that bundle because of the server settings when it comes to cache control of like in HTTP headers. But it also a problem with the naming. So if the name is the same, so then it's despite the fact that server says that you should not cache this file, it still caches it. So we've come up with the idea of having the generated hash on the file name that we used. So we basically used our own plugin to generate the file name for the bundle as a result. Yeah? More questions? Yeah?
So when you're building the artifacts, can you control, for example, say that you would like to load something really small for a start page and then load something bigger in the background so you're prepared for the next request?
Yeah, exactly. So we have that in the config file. So here you have your definition of the chunks that you want to output. So for instance, for everything that is of third party, like libraries, we have that as a vendor bundle that probably will never change over between the releases or something like that. So we try to load it. We try to see what is going on the dependency level, and then try to load only what we need now, and then using some defer or some other techniques for JavaScript will load the scripts later on. So everything there, and you can, with the help of plugins, you can configure the Webpack the way you want. Cool? More questions? No? I think we're done then. Thank you, guys.